I worked for about 8 years at APAI, an organization dedicated to promoting social inclusion for the intellectual and mental challenged and the physically impaired through services on health, education, and professional training. Most of the things we did were supposed to be done by the government. However, since millions of Brazilians all across the country have no access to such constitutional rights, there APAI comes in, filling in the gaps. APAI is a non-profit organization of epical proportions. There are over 2,000 units. It's the largest organization of its kind in South America, one of the largest in the world. I worked at a unit from a small town. The main difference to Metropolis's units is that the former concentrate their work on mental and intellectual issues. Since in small cities there are no institutions for hearing and sight impairments and rehabilitation is precarious, APAI units from such locations have extra job to do. I already miss the very rich multidisciplinary working environment I used to have. Try to imagine how much you can learn and how exciting it is to work along social workers, speech, physical and occupational therapists, pediatricians, neurologists, psychiatrists, other psychologists, proficient special education teachers and pedagogical coordinators. I was lucky to work at an extremely large unit with lots of resources and great professionals. When I moved to the country, I was only used to working in the typical private office environment. I took the chance of working at special education, first as a volunteer back in 2001. I was then hired as soon as they were able to pay for my services. That was back in 2006. It's easy for me to say that those were the best years in my career so far. Special education is addictive. It changes a person. It has made of me a better man. It was a rite of passage for me. Well, let's talk about my work. My job was to work together with different kinds of health and education professionals at evaluation and assessment of new students, as well as periodic reassessment. I was a counselor for the staff and a psychotherapist for the students and their relatives. I was the sole professional in charge of individual and group parenting. And finally, I was part of the equine assisted therapy team. I did that for about 8 years, as I told you in the beginning of the video. An outstanding experience for a psychologist, no doubt. I could only be as fortunate if I found a genie lamp.